Welcome to Test Room, your go-to hub for professional knowledge sharing. In this video, we will touch upon WSDL, UDDI, and Open API Specification, which are integral part of web service. In the previous tutorial, we learned about web services and how a client requests services from the server where the web services are hosted. Let us understand the WSDL with a small example. Consider you are a mobile application developer and your application needs currency conversion services. You are trying to integrate a currency services provided by a third party. During the course of integration, you will have a lot of questions like what is the endpoint of this particular web service? What are the APIs this web service exposes? What kind of protocol this follows, whether it is a SOAP or it is a REST? And how is the message has been passed, what is the structure of the message, how the parameters are passed. So you will have all these questions, right? That is where WSDL comes into picture. WSDL acts as an service catalog that outlines the entire functionalities offered by web services. WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language. It is an XML-based document that describes what web services can do, what data it expects, and how to interact with it. WSDL documents are authored by developer or the system architects. The service providers basically they publish this document into the private or to the public server, so make it available to the client. In summary, WSDL tells the client how to use web services by defining what operations the service offers, what parameters are expected for each operation, what data types are used, and how the response will look like, and what protocols are used for the communication. Let us go to browser and search for some example WSDL files. Search for country info WSDL. Let's click on this. You see, this is an XML based document. Generally, the WSDL is a kind of an query parameter. It always comes with the question mark. This is how generally WSDL will be made available in the server. So the clients can make a query and get a WSDL file. So this is how the WSDL file looks like. I will basically touch upon basic structure how the WSDL file looks like. This particular slide explains the structure of WSDL. We have the two versions of WSDL listed here, 1.1 and 2.0. 2.0 is the latest version of WSDL. On the right hand side, you can see the example WSDL file, which is an calculator service, calculator web service. Okay, and the main tag it starts with the description for 2.0. For 1.0, it was like starting with the definition. Let us try to understand the structure of WSDL. Let's start with the concrete section from the bottom. The first one is a service. Service indicate where is the web service located. It basically tells about the endpoint of your web service. And if you go to this particular WSDL example document, this service has got the two attributes, the binding and address. Address tells the endpoint, and binding is the one which basically maps to the binding section. The binding section is basically tells what kind of protocol this web service uses. If you see here, this says that the protocol being used here is a SOAP protocol, which is a type HTTP. And it also has a mapping to the interface. The interface indicates the complete operation that web service performs. It basically tells you the list of APIs that web service exposes. In this example, we have only one API that is being exposed, which is called as an add. Then it also maps to the message types, the request message and the response messages. Types basically indicates the message types, either the response message type or an request message type defines the structure of the request and response. And it also says what are the parameters that are passed as part of the request and what is its data type and how you are going to receive the response and what are the parameters that makes the response body. So these are all the parameters. What are the parameters that is going out of the request and coming in from the response? These are all defined in the type section. This is how the WSDL is structured. Hope you understood how to decode the WSDL document. I am going to show a small demo using a tool called SoapUI, which is a free tool from SmartBear for API testing. It's predominantly used for testing the SOAP APIs. In this demo, I will showcase how this tool interprets WSDL. Let us start by creating a new project, new SOAP project. Let us give a name, check WSDL, and the URL that we can take is our country info services, right? Country info services. I copied the entire WSDL URL. Click OK. Now the SOAP UI interpreted this WSDL and it listed out. It has really listed out all the APIs that is being exposed by this particular WSDL. So let us go and try to see. Let us bring in this particular WSDL side by side, and if you see it has got two bindings, right? And if I scroll down, yeah, one thing is to remember, this particular WSDL is of type 1.1. That is why you see a keyword as a definition, tag as a definition here. And if you see, this is a service, and under this service, above this service, there are two bindings, binding number 1 and binding number 2. Okay, and this is country info service SOAP binding and SOAP binding 1 2. You see there are two bindings. Under this binding, binding refers to the this particular type, and if you see this the port, right? So if you see this country serve info service type, that is what it was giving here, and when you come here it shows, it takes us to the port, and in the port you see all the APIs it lists, right? List of country by continent. For example, the first one is a capital city. You see it is a capital city here, right? So this is how the this particular tool interprets all the services, all the services or all the APIs exposed by this WSDL and creates a test. Let us go one step further and try to execute, try to go into the capital city. If you go into the capital city, it shows the envelope. Basically the envelope, I am going to explain it very detail in the when I am explaining about the SOAP protocol. This basically tells about how the request looks like in the SOAP part. And if I go to this one, the WSDL again, and if I search for capital city, right, and search it here above, yeah, it basically takes a string as an input. It basically takes string as an input. If I again, yeah, so the result is also a string. the input is also a string, and the name is country's ISO code. It takes an input as a string, which is the country ISO code, and it results a string, which is the capital city of the country. For example, let us go and try to execute this, and if you see, uh, we saw, right, it takes an input as a country ISO code. Here see, takes a input as a country ISO code. That is what we saw, and here it is putting as a question mark. It is not populated with any value, so I can put it as country code as an India. For India it is IN. Let's see what it gives. You see, it gave 200. Okay, that means it is success, and it gave me the capital as New Delhi. Similarly, let us try it for NL. NL stands for Netherlands. See, it is Amsterdam. Go one step further for Germany. Yeah, GR is think, yeah, I think something wrong. I don't know. Maybe let us take that later. And for UK, country not found in the database. I think it is United Kingdom, I guess. Or we can search it here. Country ISO code for Germany. Germany. It is DE. Sorry, I was wrong. This is DE. Then it should be Berlin. And similarly, let us check it for UK. It is United Kingdom, or GB. See, it is GB actually, Great Britain. So it is GB. You see, London. This is how it works. So SoapUI is a very good tool. It automatically, if you have a WSDL, it parses a WSDL and automatically creates a test for each of the APIs that is being exposed by the web service. Now we know that service provider publishes WSDL document, and this document is needed by the client to understand the functionalities or the services offered by the web services. But where can the client find this document? That is where the UDDI comes into picture. UDDI stands for Universal Description Discovery and Integration. It is an XML based registry used for listing and discovering web services. It acts like a phone directory for web services where the business can publish their services and client can search for the services they want to use. After the web services are developed and the WSDL document is authored, the service provider basically publishes this document into UDDI register, which is an online register, and there is a sequence of steps that are involved in publishing the document into UDDI register. First, the service provider uses UDDI API to register to the web service. Second, the web service provider publishes several details into UDDI register. This includes the business information, the name of the company or a provider offering the services, service information, the name of the web service and the brief description. And third one is the WSDL URL, the location where the WSDL file is hosted. Now the client will access the UDDI register and perform a search. The client uses UDDI search tools or an APIs to look for services. They can search this WSDL using a service name if they know the name of the service, or the provider name if they know the name of the company that is offering these services, or some kind of random keywords if they are searching for a services related to a specific topic, for example currency conversion or a translation conversion or a weather or a stocks, they can give a keyword as a weather or a stock, etc. Then the UDDI basically returns a list of web services that matches the search criteria. Each result will contain the information about the service, such as the service name, service provider name, and the URL of the WSDL. Once the client finds a service that they are interested in, then they use that URL provided by the UDDI register to retrieve the WSDL file. This is how the client can basically retrieve the WSDL file. WSDL is predominantly used with SOAP services. Similar to the WSDL, for the REST, we have something called Open API Specification, which is an YAML-based document. Open API Specification, we can think like a blueprint for an API. It lists all the available endpoints where you can send the request. It shows what methods get, post, put, delete to use with each of these endpoints. It explains what input parameters you should provide, such as a query parameter or a path parameter for each of these endpoints. And it also describes the kind of response, basically the response structure, how it looks like, and including the possible error messages and the data formats. It also outlines how to handle the authentication, such as using the API key, OAuth, or basic authentication. Let us try to understand one Open API specification. I know this pet store Open API, and you see this is an Swagger. Swagger is a tool that is being used for developing the APIs. It also provides a very nice documentation how to use the APIs. And if you see this documentation is all about the bunch of APIs that manages the pet store, and there are a lot of methods that it exposed. So basically, you can create a pet, you can update the pet details, you can get the given information about a given pet ID, or you can get the list of all the pets and etc. So let us go to the repository of this pet store and try to see how the Open API specification looks like. And if you scroll down, here you see there is an Open API specification, which is an YAML file. If you scroll down here, it basically tells you about, it basically describes about the API, and this is that this is an pet store API, everything about the pets, and this is a base URL that you're going to use to access this pet store. And the parse tells what are the methods this API exposes. You see here it is a post method, and the the valid response code is 200. When the operation is successful, you can get the content as an XML, or you can get the content as a JSON. There are two possibilities. 405, it gives an invalid input, and the request body should contain a either an element in an XML format or in a JSON format. Similarly, it gives a different method. For example, here you see the put method. Here you see what are the error codes. When it's successful, what is error code? When it is not successful, what are the error codes it basically sends out, and how the message body should look like, and other things, right? Basically, OpenAPI spec is similar to the WSDL, which is used for SOAP. OpenAPI specification is used with the REST, which basically is a blueprint of an API. It describes what is a base URL, what is an endpoint, then what are the different methods it offers, how to use it, and is there any authorization or authentication is needed to access this APIs, whether it is a basic authentication or it is an OAuth 2 or it is an API kind, etc. Hope you understood what is WSDL, UDDI, and Open Specification. I could not show them practically, but I explained the concepts more on the theoretical front. Hope you enjoyed learning with me. In case you find this video interesting, please support me by subscribing my channel. Thank you.